In a week where everybody's obsessed with the election and the renewed market volatility, we want to put the focus back where it really needs to be, on you. So we know the headlines are being dominated by the election. They're being dominated by an uptick in market volatility. I don't want to tease you too much by not addressing that, but we did cover a lot of what we thought would happen that is playing out this week in last week's commentary, so I'd encourage you to go back and check that out. The long and the short of it is we're not scared of the volatility. We don't think it's done, but we do still look forward to the next couple years as being great investment opportunities. And so again, this volatility, like volatility is most of the time, is an opportunity, not something you need to live in fear of. You particularly don't need to live in fear of it if you've done a great job planning and building your portfolio. So to that end, I wanted to bring in my colleague and new director of retirement planning here at 10 Capital, Dave Gordon. What that role means for us here at 10 Capital, we're very much a team-based organization, but somebody who's really going to head up gathering everybody's good ideas, experiences, and particularly in Dave's case, as he's been doing here wonderfully for well over a year now, implementing those through technology that helps break it down in a very simple fashion and a helpful fashion for our clients. So in light of Dave's new role here at the firm, coupled with last week's virtual quarterly where we had Julie Genjak from the MIT Age Lab, we thought we'd talk about retiring and aging and some of the common misconceptions. One of the biggest ones that I had was just how much retirement's changed and how much it's changed over the last 150 years. In 1880, according to the MIT Age Lab work, 75% of people were still working over 64 years of age. And really what that stat is, given how long people lived back then, is there really was no sense of retirement. You worked until you passed away. Today, by contrast, only 19% of people are still working after the age of 64. So again, part of it is just how we think about that last third of our life. The other part is that a lot of people who are planning their plan around like, well, I've got time to catch up, I'll just work till I'm 75. That may not be the case for a whole bunch of different reasons. But when we come to the things and common misconceptions, I think the biggest one that you and I were just talking about was the lack of personalization, exactly. Right? How many people subconsciously are planning their retirements or their plans or what their needs are, how much money they have to have based off something a friend said, as opposed to really unearthing their own journey. When you talk about other misconceptions that either the industry or people are walking through, you've got a couple things you want to highlight. What are those?
Yeah, so one is just the general assumptions that we use and people project onto themselves based upon what a colleague, family member, how they either are living or lived. Two people retiring at 65 are most likely going to have very different goal, needs, wants, and desires in different financial situations in retirement. So just the basic assumptions that we start off ground level are wrong. And that's why I say, I've been saying this for a while, our industry's been broken for a long time. We try to put people in a box, keep them in that box, crank out a plan. And ultimately, and I hate to say this, but a lot of advisors in our industry, their goal is for their clients to die with as much money in their bank account as possible, so they never have to worry about addressing that issue of potentially running out of money. And we just think it shortchanges the client massively. You've spent your whole life saving up this nest egg, and sure, you want to leave something to the kids, or that's different for everybody. But what about all these things, in the near, middle, and long term that you want to do for hopefully a nice, healthy 30-plus year retirement? Mm-hmm. And I got a couple things I can show you kind of addressing
Please
that.
do.
All right. We just think that this straight line of assumption of always spending the same amount on a monthly basis, adjusted for inflation, doesn't reflect a reality. And in fact, we think it's more like the chart down here, more phase-based, based upon your age in retirement and your health. So we actually think the line should be more flat, or actually almost be completely opposite of what's actually being assumed in most of these plans. What we want to do is marry up your resources that you've worked so hard to save and maximize those in each phase of retirement, so you're not shortchanging yourself. You get to travel in the phase of retirement that makes sense to you. You get to do these things that are the most important to you. And That's ultimately why we think the industry's broken and why we're changing the game here at 10 Capital.
Question we often get after we present this type of material to people is, well, why does everybody else do it different? It's really about efficiency. Doing phase-based methodology takes more time getting to know the client. It takes more sophisticated and expensive technology, all of which we think are great investments in you and in our process as you invest in us and, of course, in your portfolio. Welcome any of you who haven't gone through this process to come in, fill it out, and of course, it's the ongoing monitoring of this that's so critical to help make sure whatever you may be doing today isn't bankrupting your tomorrow, but again, working all together to maximize your journey. We've included a great piece on all of this from the MIT Age Lab in the written portion of this week's commentary that we would encourage you to check out. And thank you, as always, for your time and attention.